From San Diego, California, this is the One Extraordinary Marriage Show, where being busy is overdone, romancing is fun, and scheduling sex is taking the guesswork out of wondering when you're going to get some. I'm Tony DeLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. From coast to coast and around the world, thank you for joining us. It's time to talk sex, love, and commitment. Give us a call on the HUG hotline at 858-876-5663. That's 858-876-5663. Or send us an email to hugs@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. In today's show, we talk about taking responsibility for what you can do in your marriage and the impact of that one decision.
And I want you to think about this quote from Anonymous. It says, "It's easy to blame others when things are broken. The hard part is recognizing the part that you played in it all."
And isn't that the truth?
Oh, well, we're going to be jumping all into this idea of accountability and taking responsibility. But first and foremost, Happy New Year.
Happy 2018, One Family. We are excited to have you here. We love you guys. And get ready. Buckle your seatbelts.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
And just as a total side note, guys, there are just times when Tony starts that opening of the show and I'm like, man, that guy's got a good voice.
Yes,
you know,
I do.
you do. You do.
I'll own it. Thank you.
And I just want to encourage all you spouses out there, if there is something that your spouse does that just like lights you up, let them know. Just tell them, you know what, the way you look at me, the way you touch me, and that's completely off topic with what, well, not completely off topic, but you know, not exactly where we were going here at the start of the show. But man, there are just times when Tony does something and it's just got to be recognized. And you know, getting into the show here, we start each and every One Extraordinary Marriage show with a hug. And for those of you that are brand new, the hug is an opportunity for you to hear from another couple in the one family, somebody just like you that's like, hey, I want to share what's been going on in my marriage. And this week's hug is sponsored by care.com, and you can check them out at care.com/one. And you know, the fact of the matter is that with so many things going on in our lives, it can be difficult to get everything done, especially for us getting the house cleaned. With two teenagers in the house, someone is always making a mess. And I feel like there are just days when there aren't enough hours in the day to get that house clean, to get those little tasks done. And it just seems like it would be easier if, you know, like I could just spend more time with Tony and not have to worry about that. And care.com is a great way to de-stress your life and make your day-to-day simpler. Care.com is the largest digital marketplace for finding and managing family care. Whether you need a housekeeper, a dog walker, a tutor, or just someone to run your errands, they have all of this and more. And here's the thing, using care.com's premium membership, I was able to see hundreds of housekeepers right near my home when I put in my zip code. Plus, with the premium membership, I have access to reference checks, qualifications, and certifications. It's a great way to know who you're dealing with, and the site is so easy to use. Care.com is a great tool for me when I need care at a minute's notice. So to save 30% off your care.com premium membership, go to care.com/one when you subscribe. So this week's hug, it's been a little while since we've had a voicemail hug, but this one came in from a voicemail that we received.
Yeah, and as an FYI, you can always call in at 858-876-5663. We would love to play your voicemail hug. So here's this one.
I am a fairly new listener, but let me tell you, I have went back to day one, and I am working my way up just through the years. My husband and I have been married for 22 years.
Congratulations.
And we are pretty much I'm fascinated by the podcast. I just think as Christians, this is exactly what has been needed. And I wish I had have known about this years ago. It has been a blessing not only to the two of us, but also we've shared it with friends, and it's funny to hear one of my best friends and I were talking, and she said, I overhear my husband talking on the phone saying that we had just telling someone we just finished the 7-day challenge. He was talking to your husband, and it was just really phenomenal. We are preparing for the new year, and as we get together with girlfriends, we both said, my best friend and I have both said, in going in our separate areas, you know, to visit our family or whatnot and our friends, that we will be sharing this podcast with others. So thank you. It's such a blessing. And you're right. It can help make a good marriage great. Thanks.
Such an encouragement to us when we hear folks like that listener going out and saying, you know what, what can I do to help the marriages that I know? What can I do to encourage our friends? Right. And so here she is, she's going out, and they made plans before the holidays that they were going to go and just be like, hey, anybody that we run into, 2 friends going out and changing the world. Because whoever we can see, we're going to say, hey, you guys have got to listen to this. And it so ties into this idea of taking responsibility. Right. And a few years ago, Tony and I and the One Family started this idea of having a hashtag that was the theme for the year. Mm-hmm. Right. A couple years ago, it was best year ever.
Best year ever. Yes.
Last year, it was next level.
Yep.
Right. And so throughout the year, last year, we encouraged couples to take their marriage to the next level by focusing on each of the different intimacies. And so no matter where your marriage was or is, the idea was that you could always be working to take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm. And for each and every one of us, that's different. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, for some, it may be we're in a really difficult spot, and we're going to just take it to the next level for you. It's not you having to be who Tony and Lisa are and us taking our marriage to the next level. We're all just growing. We're all growing.
Absolutely. And just going back to that voicemail real quick, I love how it was 2 guys talking about the 7 days of sex challenge. So, one guy was like, I'm going next level.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you guys have done this, you've like thrown down the gauntlet, and we're going to go next level. And, here we are at the start of a new year, and I think people get really excited about the new year. I know we do. It's like fresh beginnings. It's that blank slate. There are just these great expectations for what the next 365 days are going to hold. Right. And it's like, blank journals and blank calendars and all of these good things. And it's such a great time to take a look at your marriage and start putting into motion what the future is going to hold for the 2 of you. And so as we were talking over the last few weeks, about what 2018 is going to be about.
And what that hashtag is going to be about for us, as well as the One Family.
Mm-hmm. I started actually testing this out with a few of my coaching clients, because all of a sudden, as I was looking at what I was doing, it was looking at this idea that we're so quick, like Tony, the quote that I said to open the show, we're so quick to blame others. Mm-hmm. Right? We're so quick to look outward when something's going on in our marriages. And what I realized is that we needed to pull this back. We needed to stop saying, if you would only, to our spouses, or why can't you? Or I wish that you would, or why don't you? Because all of those statements have one thing in common. They all make it about what your spouse has to do. Mm-hmm. Right? There isn't anything in there about what I can do.
And there's also a focus of blame.
Oh, sure.
Blame, frustration. You're just pushing off what you're feeling mm-hmm. onto your spouse.
Absolutely. And so Tony and I started having conversations around what is it going to take for every single person. And I want you to be, that word that I just used, guys, that's very intentional. Because what it takes for every single person to create an extraordinary marriage is one question. Mm-hmm. One question. And that question, which is going to be the hashtag for the entire One Family for 2018, is, what can I do?
And it's sort of counterintuitive, because most of the time when we're here and we're talking, what can the 2 of you do together? What actions can both of you take each week to increase your spiritual intimacy, your sexual intimacy, your emotional intimacy? Mm-hmm. And yet, Elisa, working with many of her clients, and a lot of her clients, she works one-on-one. She'll work with either the wife or the husband one-on-one, and then she'll bring them together so that they can work together in sessions. And yet what we find is that many of the times when she's working on those one-on-ones, what can I do? The spouse is having to be asked, what can I do to make a difference right now mm-hmm. in my marriage? Instead of saying, hey, well, only if my wife would do this, then I would be able to do this. Mm-mm. Instead, the question is, what can I do?
And that came up. I was talking to a husband the other day, and kind of doing his last coaching session of 2018. And 17. Sorry,
we're in 2018. We're in 18. Yep,
like,
we just started.
You guys know how that goes when it's just like the beginning of the year, and you're like 17, 18. Which year is it? But we were talking about creating his vision for 2018. And so I asked him, I said, what do you want to be saying about yourself 12 months from now? Right? He's like, well, I want to be I want to, be a better husband, a better leader, better in the business. I want to be a better father. And any of you that have coached with me, you know that I'm like, wow, that's way too big. I can't do anything with that. And I said, well, when we talk about being a better husband, right? What does that actually mean to you? And he said, I don't want to blame my wife for things that I could do or change. Had I been holding up the phone, I probably would have dropped it. I'm on headsets when I'm on, my strategy sessions, because that right there, let me tell you how powerful that's going to be in that marriage.
What a shift.
Holy cow.
What a shift to say that, I don't want to blame my wife for things I could do or change. Again, what can I do?
And when you take ownership of that phrase, right? When you say, I'm going to adopt this and I'm going to not just adopt it, I'm going to internalize it, right? This is going to become part of who I am this year. You start to look at every interaction, every action that you choose to do in a different light, because it's no longer about what your spouse is doing for you or to you, right? It's no longer about what I'm going to get out of this situation. It's about how I can serve my spouse and what I am equipped to do and to bring into the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Right? No longer are you a passive participant in your marriage. No longer are you taking this wait and see, like Tony said, well, when this happens, when he does this, when she does that, you're like, no, what can I do right now? Because each and every one of you listening to this show has something that you can do in your marriage right now to create a shift.
Mm-hmm.
You do. You can't. There are some of you going, Elisa, you don't know what's going on in my marriage. You're right. I don't know today what's going on in your marriage, but I know that there is something that you can do.
It could be as easy, in all honesty, husband or wife. I don't know which side, but it could be as easy as, filling up the dishwasher. That's just like one easy thing. For a lot of us in terms of emotional intimacy, it could be making the choice to listen to our spouse instead of trying to fix everything for them every time they open their mouth. Just sit there and listen. Allow them to let loose. Allow them to share their feelings without feeling like they're going to just be trampled on. For some of you, it may mean that it's time, instead of you looking at your spouse to spruce up your bedroom, maybe it's time for you to just go, hey, you know what? I'm going to spruce it up. And we have 11 must-have items that you could pick up. I mean, we got a PDF. It's free. I'll give you the link. It's oneextraordinarymarriage.com/must-have. Pick that up. There's 11 items. Go make it happen instead of looking at your spouse to make it happen. But you're saying, oh, but you know what? We just don't have the cash right now. Sell some things in your house. What can I do? There have been times in my marriage that I wanted to make change and do things in our marriage. And there were times in a place where, man, I would go through the garage. I'd go through my things, sell it on eBay, Amazon, Craigslist, whatever, to make sure that I could have what I was looking for that could make a difference for Elisa and I. For some of you, you're going, well, what can I do? It might mean that right now, you need to go to oneextraordinarymarriage.com/coaching and get a coaching session with Elisa. It's enough. You've been sitting around in your own little corner, mulling over, whatever's been happening in the past, unforgiveness, guilt, shame, and it's time to get it out. Mm-hmm. So that way you can have that marriage you desire. So you can go next level like we talked about this year. But right now in 2018, you got to be asking yourself, what can I do right now? And only you can make that decision.
Part of bringing this hashtag, part of bringing this idea into the One Family this year is that when you adopt this and you take this personal responsibility, no longer are you blaming, right? No longer are you complaining, right? Because you're looking at a situation and saying, wait a minute. There's something that I can do right now, and I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to be passive in this. What can I do? And one of the best resources, one of the best books that I think Tony and I have ever read, and we've read this book multiple times. It sits on my desk within quick reach. It's there right now. I can see it as we're recording. Is called QBQ: The Question Behind the Question by John G. Miller.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic book. We have mentioned this book over the years on the show. So for those of you who've been around for a while and know it, we've talked about it.
Right. Because the premise behind this book, in the quick 20-second version, is that so often we ask why. Right? Like, why is this happening? Why isn't this better? Why? Why does nothing for you? Let me be really clear. It allows you to stay stuck in your stuck. But when you start saying, what can I do? How can I make this better? How can I influence the environment? Then all of a sudden there's a shift because you're not focused on what your spouse needs to change. And newsflash for all of you, you can't change your spouse. So you might as well start with the person that you can change. That's you, right? You aren't telling your spouse what they need to do because when you say, what can I do? You're the one taking action. You're not making rules or setting boundaries in the relationship because you're just saying, what can I do? Right? Again, I'm not telling you, you can't do this or you can't do that. You're not complaining about what's happening because you're looking at it and saying, what can I do to make this better? You're not putting all of the responsibility for change, for growth, for creating a bedroom, for getting out and exercising, for planning date night. You're not putting all of that on your spouse. You're stepping up and stepping into the role that you were called to have in your marriage, right? You two are supposed to be partners.
Yeah.
You need to get into that focus to create the extraordinary.
And I think here's one thing that I've learned over the years is that we come into our marriage and everybody goes, partnership, partnership, partnership. You got to do everything together. Elise and I will talk about that all the time. We do. We talk about you got to work through your emotional intimacy together, your sexual intimacy together. You need to talk about those things. And yet there have been many a times over our lives, and probably yours as well, where you notice that it's you who has to make the change. If you're not feeling sexually attractive in your own bedroom, maybe you have some extra pounds over the years, your metabolism has slowed down. You're not 20 years old anymore. You're 45, you're just not feeling it like you used to. There's nothing your spouse can say to you to make you get on the treadmill or get outside and do a walk. There's nothing your spouse can say sometimes to you to get active and get healthy. What you put in your mouth is up to you. So maybe this is the time, this is the year where you just go, what can I do? And what you can do is maybe go get a fitness instructor, or maybe you're going to pick up that book that you've had on your desk, but you're actually going to read it to start that nutrition plan that you've been saying you were going to do. And I don't know what that is for you, maybe, but I'm just saying there have been many a times in our own marriage where we come together. I mean, honestly, we come together so much. And yet there are those times when we have to just take responsibility for our own actions to make the change that we want to see in ourselves, which then impacts our marriage.
Absolutely. And, as we start talking about some of the action items around what can you do, let's start with just making life a little easier around your house. Right? Take a look at what needs to be done around your home and find the right person to do it, whether it's a nanny, a tutor, or someone to run your errands. A premium membership with care.com provides so many tools like reference checks, qualifications, and certifications. It's a great way to know who you're dealing with, and their site is so easy to use. It's like I said earlier, it's a great tool for me to use when I need care at a minute's notice and don't have a lot of time. So to save 30% off your care.com premium membership, go to care.com/one when you subscribe. So what do you do, right? What are you going to do this year? I want to encourage each and every one of you right now, no matter where you are, no matter whether you're listening to this show when it first comes out or you're listening to this show, 6 months from now. Maybe you're re-listening to the show 6 months from now because you're like, hold on, I need a tune-up, right? I want you to say, you know what? I'm going to embrace this idea. I'm going to internalize this idea. I'm going to own what can I do?
Because that impacts, you can look at this in every intimacy in your marriage.
Absolutely. When you feel like complaining, blaming, or nagging, ask yourself the question. Some of you this year are going to need to have this maybe as your screensaver on your phone. Or maybe you're going to need to make yourself a little Post-it note folded in half that you slide into your wallet. Or maybe you're going to stick it on your bathroom mirror or on the kitchen refrigerator. You're going to put it in multiple places so that you can say, you know what, I just need to ask this question. Wherever it is that you find that you're most likely to be griping or complaining or in a bad mood about what's going on in your marriage, right? Stick it there. Because when you choose, I had this conversation with coaching clients the other day, right? All of these things are happening in their marriage. And so I asked the question, I'm like, well, what can you do? Right? As you're complaining about each other, what can you do? And this light bulb went off, right? As we started talking about the emotions and the feelings that happen when they're complaining to each other. And I'm like, well, what can you do? Right? Are you going to, and the husband said in this conversation, he said, sometimes I feel like when things get so emotionally charged, he said, I feel like I'm drowning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked the wife, I said, what can you do? Because if you've got a drowning husband, there are two options, right? One option is to evaluate the situation, change what you're doing, and essentially throw him an emotional life preserver, right? Whatever that is. And we talked through some things specific to that couple in the coaching session. The other option is to keep going down the path that you're going on and doing the things that you've been doing that haven't been working. And basically you're sticking weights on his feet when he already feels like he's drowning. Totally your choice. I said, but what can you do? Right? And all of a sudden they've got this visual because they made the decision to do coaching for their marriage to say, hold on a second. Do I want to be a life preserver or do I want to be a weight? Right? What can I do?
Can I say one thing in this area? Big thing for Elise and I in this area. Complaining, blaming, nagging. Believe me, we've been married long enough that this happens. So how have we been able to decrease this in our marriage? Our coffee break. Take a break, a coffee break. Check it out, oneextraordinarymarriage.com/coffee break. Pick it up. This, I'm telling you, helps decrease that. Doesn't eliminate it. I wish to say we were perfect. It still happens. And yet when we make sure that we stay on our coffee break on a weekly basis, this area decreases a ton. So when you ask the question, what can I do? You can go pick that up. And then you can begin to talk to your spouse about this and go, we're going to put a date on our calendar every week for 45 minutes to an hour and make it happen.
It's all about taking action, guys. You know, right? Because when it comes time to plan the date nights, I was trying to get that out. When it comes time to, plan a date night, a weekend away, or a family vacation, don't be looking at your spouse and be like, yeah, just let me know where we're going. Don't ask, what can I do? Maybe, one of you is really good at research and the other one is really good at putting together an itinerary. Work together, right? Date night is not always the responsibility of one spouse. Let me be really clear.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Both of you should have the babysitter's phone numbers. Both of you should have access to the family calendar.
Guys, I'm going to say this. This is, I think, when I talk to men and husbands overall, where we fall short. I'm sorry. We put this too much on our wives to make everything happen. And yet we need to step up to the plate on the date night deal. So just make it happen. What can I do? Hey, does it mean that you need to get the babysitter number so you can hire the babysitter? If so, do it. If not, if you don't need a babysitter or anything, pick the restaurant out so you don't leave the driveway asking your spouse 500 times where she wants to go. And by the time you barely even get a block away, she's already seething mad at you. Been there, done that. No fun. Like, just pick the place.
Right.
Like, hey, honey, guess what? You know what? Every Sunday morning, we're going to get up and we're going to just go walk somewhere. Mm-hmm. For those of us in the warmer weather, we can do that 365. For those of you in the colder areas, may not happen. Yeah, may not happen as much. I don't know. Maybe your thing is gaming together. Go game together, man. Make that time. But guys, challenging you, man. Step up. What can I do? Mm-hmm. Again, I say this. I'm truly blessed that I get to be behind this mic because I get to hear myself say it, and then I get to re-listen to myself say it. So I get to hear myself way too many times say so because I need the reminder. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. And, that's just one area, right? Some of you are looking at a new year and you're looking at your finances and you're like, oh my gosh, we're a little bit upside down. Or, oh my gosh, we want to achieve this goal this year financially. What can you do, right? You ask yourself, what can I do to make that happen? Mm-hmm. What can I do to create a shift in our finances this year, right? Do we need to start a cash flow plan? Do we need to, open up a separate account to fund that? Do we need to, figure out exactly how much that dream is going to cost? What can I do makes you participate in your marriage, right? And we're not just talking about finances and date nights. Some of you need to be asking yourselves that question about what's going on in your sexual intimacy in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. For too long, you've been saying, you know what? That's your responsibility. I just show up and lay in bed. And I'm talking about men and women. This is not a gender thing here, right? What can you do in the bedroom. Maybe we're talking, it's time for lubrication, right? We did a show, lube it up, right? Maybe it's time to actually wear nothing to bed. Again, if it's cold, like heated blankets and that type of stuff, please. But maybe you need to like come to bed in something sexy so that you feel sexy and your spouse is like, oh my gosh, look at you. That's like a present.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Maybe you need to have a conversation with your spouse outside the bedroom about what's going on in your sexual intimacy. Please do that conversation outside the bedroom.
It helps.
It helps.
It's a better place to do it, but those are some of those things. What can I do? Pick up something off of Amazon. We talked a couple of weeks ago about fun board games or fun games.
Sexy games.
Sexy games. I mean, go grab something. What can you do? Go grab the dice. I mean, you can buy dice for anywhere from like a couple of bucks to the elaborate ones for maybe $20.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are the sort of things that as you're going through your day, and as you're going through this year, that you ask yourself, maybe you're just sitting there on the couch. Again, I'll raise my hand to this, watching some football, and you see your wife working, doing some things. And maybe, she's sort of huffing and puffing a little bit. I get that as well. Maybe during halftime, you just stand up and you go, hey, before that, even just going, hey, honey, at halftime, I'll make sure to take care of I'll take care of the kitchen. What can I do? That's what I can do. I can get off the couch during halftime, go take care of the kitchen real quick, make it back before the second half starts.
The fact is that we know that so many of you, whether you write in or whether it's because of the fact that you listen or that you've shared the show or whatever it is, you want to have an extraordinary marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what you want. That's why every week you tune in. That's why, just like the voicemail at the beginning of the show, you say, you know what, I'm sharing this show with everybody that I know because, oh my gosh. Right? Here's the thing. You want to have that extraordinary marriage, you need to get off the sidelines and get into the game called marriage. You need to say, this is going to be the year. This is going to be our best year ever. And the reason that I know that is because I'm going to just ask every day, what can I do? Because I promise you guys, here we are. We're at the start of a year, or whenever you're listening to this, plan it for the whole next year. Start today.
Right.
And make a commitment to yourself to say, what would it look like if I asked my spouse, or if I asked myself every day, what can I do for my marriage? You want to talk about extraordinary?
Wow. What a journal. You bring that up. And I've been really journaling over this last month. It's something I know Lisa talks to her clients about a lot. And I have picked it up again. And, what a question to ask yourself each day. What can I do? ... And then write down what you can do. Days are going to change, right? From one to the next. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be crazy. I mean, some days it might be, what can I do today? The one thing I can do today is say a word of kindness, of love to my spouse.
So good.
Use a word of affirmation that builds them up instead of tears them down. Give them a call during the day on my break time. Send them a text message that says, I love you, and whatever your fun little, nickname for them is. For Elisa, it's hot stuff. Whatever it is that makes even the slightest difference, the slightest change, because you don't get to the destination. The old adage is you don't eat an elephant in one sitting, right? You eat it one bite at a time. Mm-hmm. And it's just like anything else. In this journey that we call marriage, there is no destination. Mm-hmm. There is no end. Believe me, Elise and I have had our highs and our lows just in this year alone, and yet there's still much more to come. But each and every day, we still got to do a little something to add to it. Because if we don't, guess what? In 3 months from now, less, you maybe listen to this show and we're just off the rails. And maybe you've been there as well.
Extraordinary happens in the action. And this year, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I want you to say, what can I do? Mm-hmm. I want you to tag it in your pictures. I want us to create, through the one family, literally a ripple effect, an avalanche of couples that are saying, you know what? I'm going to approach my marriage saying, what can I do? And people are going to know that our marriage is different because that's what I've decided to do. I'm going to take ownership for the things, just like that husband said, I'm not going to blame my wife for the things that I could change or the things that I could do. I'm going to do it this year. And if we have all the millions of you that listen to this show embrace that, let me tell you something. 2018 is seriously going to be the best year ever for marriages.
Yeah, man, I am jazzed. I'm loving it. Man, you guys.
So excited.
We love you guys. We love you guys. And we come here each and every week because we want to make sure that we're giving you not just something to hear, you know, just a little ear candy, but something you can use. So do it. And this is the year. This is the year where we believe, and you're going to hear us intertwine. What can I do throughout the year? And yet you need to do that. So it may be for you, you may need to write in a hug, just singing praise over your spouse, because we want to read those here. You may need to even call it in because we want to play it here. Whatever it is you choose to do this first week of the year, praise God. We are lifting you up. We are believing that there's going to be such an abundance and a breakthrough in your marriage this year that when we look back, you're going to go, my goodness, is because I started doing one thing. And the only thing is that you did was you asked yourself the question, what can I do? Go make it happen. We love you guys. Have a fantastic week, and we will catch you next week. Love you guys. God bless.